Well, my dear students, we have been understanding the story Two Deer by Leo Tolstoy. The story depicts or it ridicules the way of punishing a criminal in a country called Monaco. Monaco is a tiny country which is situated on the Mediterranean Sea of, it's situated between France and Italy. Its total population is 7,000. And whereas the Prince of Monaco wanted to run the country smoothly as a real kinglet does, this country was having ministers, courtiers, bishops, generals and an army, whereas a country usually it will have. Here the Prince of Monaco was getting revenue from different sources like wine, spirit, tobacco and a poll tax. King was not getting sufficient revenue from so-called taxes, so that he was expecting another special source that comes from gaming house or gambling game or gaming house where people play roulette. People play roulette here, they come and try their luck. Sometimes they lose and sometimes they win, but the large sum of this gaming house has been given to the Prince of Monaco. Whereas we have come to know that other German sovereigns have completely forbidden this gaming house, but the Prince of Monaco doesn't want to do that because he was not having no more source to run the country smoothly, where he has to feed the courtiers, ministers, generals, army and all the jurymen, barristers who were there in that country, so that he was not getting sufficient source, so that he was depending on this gaming house. And other German sovereigns have forbidden this game because they learned that, they came to know that this gaming house did so much harm to the people of their country. But still this Prince of Monaco was doing it. He was continuing because he was continuing his monopoly business. Nobody were dare to question him. So all of a sudden what happened, we have learned that in this country there committed a murder by a man. The man who played gaming house, where he played roulette, and he lost the money which belonged to him, and he lost that money also which did not belong to him. And later what happened, the person who asked his money, and he shot him and he killed him and he murdered. And this never happened in the history of Monaco. People surprised to know that there was a murder committed by man. So later what happened, all the ministers, barristers, jurymen and all the courtiers, they sat together and there was a committee. In that committee they decided and they wanted to give the punishment to the criminal, to cut off his head. That's what the law directs. And when they decided and they kept before the king, king agreed and they said that the fellow must be executed, execute him. And when they decided to cut the head of criminal, they had a small hitch in that country, that neither they had a guillotine nor an executioner how to cut the head of criminal. So finding there is no guillotine machine or an expert, and they decided that they wanted to send a letter to the French government asking their favor whether they could supply a machine and an expert to cut the head of criminal. So French government agreed, and it was happy to send a machine and an expert, but they were going to charge 16,000 francs. 16,000 francs would be more than 2 francs on a single man of that country. So that franc means a unit of currency in France. So that king completely disagreed and he got angry that 16,000 francs to spend on this wretch, on this criminal, so it is highly impossible. Find somehow cheaper way to deal this rascal. And then what happened, all the committee members decided to send the same letter to the government of Italy asking their favor whether they could supply a machine and an expert. In fact, Italy government was also happy and they said that they were going to charge 12,000 francs including travelling expenses. So compared to France government charge, it is 4,000 less, but still it was not small amount. Again, king thought, and when he came to know that Italy government was charging 12,000 francs. Again, people may not stand on that. People may people may rebel, or there may be riot. There may be a disturbance of peace in our kingdom. So better you find somehow cheaper way to find or punish this criminal. And later all the committee members considered and reconsidered, and they went to they summoned one of the generals. They asked him that whether any soldier is there in that army who could cut the head of criminal. And when the general went to all the soldiers and asked them whether they could do this job, and none of the soldiers came forward, and they said that they were not being taught how to cut the head of criminal. Rather, they have been taught that how to fight with enemies. So till in last class we discussed up to here. So let me continue today. So then, soldiers said, general said that no, they said we don't know how to do it. It's not a thing we have been taught. So they completely disagreed by saying that they have not been taught how to cut the head of criminal. Then next, what was to be done? Again, the ministers considered and reconsidered. They assembled a commission and a committee and a subcommittee. At last, they decided that the best thing would be to alter the death sentence to one of the imprisonment for life. That's what happened. So, as I narrated in the beginning class, that they altered the death sentence into life imprisonment. They changed earlier the decision was to cut off the criminal head, finding neither there were guillotine nor an executioner, and none of the soldiers came forward to cut the head of criminal. And what was to be done? Again, they considered and reconsidered. All the committee members sat together and they came to one conclusion, that they wanted to alter the death sentence into life imprisonment. And the best thing would be to alter the death sentence to one of the imprisonment for life. This would enable the prince to show his mercy, and it would come cheaper. In one way, if they alter the death sentence into life imprisonment, in the view of criminal, king looks like mercy. He look like he is having mercy, kindness, or on the criminal. On the other hand, cost would be cheaper. That's what the committee members suggested. The prince agreed to this, and so the matter was arranged. So whatever the committee members decided, and they kept that decision before the Prince of Monaco, and King of Monaco agreed, and the matter was arranged. The only hitch now was that there was no suitable prison for a man sentenced for life. So again, there were, you have been seeing hitches, small problems have been arising in that Monaco kingdom. Earlier, they were not having a guillotine nor an expert to cut the head of criminal. And second time, none of the soldiers came forward to cut the head of criminal. This time, when they decided to alter the death sentence into life imprisonment, this time again there was a problem. Again there is a hitch, that is, there was no suitable prison to keep this criminal. This is really what should we say, that country was not having even a prison to keep this criminal there. There was a small lockup where people were sometimes kept temporarily, but there was no strong prison fit for permanent use. It's not that the Monaco country was not at all having any lockup or prison to keep the criminals. It was having, but where criminals were kept for a temporary purpose, for morning to till evening. Again they used to release the criminals from that lockup, from that prison, but they were finding hard to get or they were not having proper prison to place this criminal inside. However, they managed to find a place that would do, and they put the young fellow there and placed a guard over him. That's what. Ultimately, at last they found a prison, or which resembles like a prison, and they kept this criminal inside, and they placed a guard also. Guard or a watchman who could watch this criminal who was kept in that prison. However, they managed to find a place that would do, and they put the young fellow there and placed a guard over him. That's what the duty of the guard was, to fetch the food from the kitchen of palace, and he has to look after this criminal who was kept in that prison. The guard had to watch the criminal and had also to fetch his food from the palace kitchen. This is what the duty assigned to the guard. So guard duty was to fetch the food from the palace kitchen, and he has to look after the criminal who was there in that prison. So next what happened is, the prisoner remained there month after month till a year had passed. So everything was fine, where all these committee members, they decided and they kept that criminal inside the prison, and whereas a guard to look after him, and he has to fetch his food from the kitchen of palace kitchen, and he has to look after the criminal. Everything was fine. Whereas months after, the prisoner remained there month after month till a year had passed. So 1 year completely passed that guard was doing his duty, and he was bringing the food from palace kitchen, and he was looking after the criminal. But when a year had passed, the kinglet, looking over the account of his income and expenditure, one day noticed a new item of expenditure. So what happened? Everything was fine. Even king was not knowing that something had happened. Everything was fine. But one day, when king was observing all his accounts of income and expenditure, all of a sudden he is surprised to know that there was an extra expenditure. One more expenditure he come across it, that is the amount which they spent on guard as well as the criminal. Looking over the account of his income and expenditure, one day noticed a new item of expenditure. This was for the keep of criminal, nor was it a small item either. It was not a small item. That was not a small amount either. What was the amount? How much it was? There was a special guard, and there was also the man's food. It came to more than 600 francs a year. So what happened? The expenditure of keeping criminal inside that prison, and they paid some salary to the guard, and it was more than 600 francs. Nearly it is 600 francs per year. That was not a small amount. Then there was a special guard, and there was also the man's food. It came to more than 600 francs per year. And the worst of it was that the fellow was still young and healthy and might live for 50 years. Now king worried that this criminal who was kept in that prison, he was still healthy and young and energetic, and he was still healthy. So what? Another 50 years he may live inside. So 50 years into 600 francs, and again that will be more than what he expected. And then he is surprised to know this. It came to more than 600 francs a year, and the worst of it was that the fellow was still young and healthy and might live for 50 years. When one came to reckon it upon, the matter was serious. It would never do. So the prince summoned his ministers and said to them, again he is surprised to know 600 francs. It was 600 francs per year was not a small amount, and the fellow may live another 50 years, and the cost would be more than what they were expecting. So that king was serious, and he summoned all the ministers and courtiers, and he said them, you must find some cheaper way of dealing with this rascal. He got angry. Angrily he said that, so you must find some cheaper way of dealing with this rascal. The present plan is too expensive. So too expensive, too dear. So that's what the meaning of the title of the story itself is. Too dear is too expensive or a high cost. So the present plan is too expensive, so that find somehow cheaper way to deal with this rascal. That's what the king ordered all the ministers who were there in his kingdom. And the ministers met and considered and reconsidered till one of them said. So all the committee members who met the king, and king ordered them that, or suggested them that, find some cheaper way to deal with this rascal or this criminal. Then what happened? All the committee members went back and again they considered and reconsidered until one of them stood up and said, gentlemen. So there was again a committee and all the committee members were there. Among them, one of the ministers stood up, or one of the member of that committee stood up and said that, gentlemen, in my opinion, we must dismiss the god. This is what the suggestion he wanted to give there. And he stood up from among all those committee members, and he stood up and suggested that, gentlemen, in my opinion, we must dismiss the god. That's what the suggestion he gave. But then rejoined another minister. So another minister objected, and he said, he stood up and he said that the fellow will run away. When the first member stood up and suggested that we must dismiss the god, when one of the members stood and said that we must dismiss the god, another member stood up and he objected by saying that the fellow will run away. The criminal will run away from the prison. That's what happened. That's what he said. The fellow will run away. Well said the first speaker. The man who suggested this, the first member or the first speaker stood up again. He said that, well said the first speaker. Let him run away and be hanged to him. And when he goes out of the prison, again we can bring him, fetch him, and we can hang him. So that's what the first speaker suggested. So they reported the result. They reported the result to their deliberation to the kinglet. Deliberation. Deliberation meaning is careful decision, or careful discussion. So one of the that first speaker said that let him run away. When he runs away, we can again bring him back and we can hang him. And so they reported the result of their deliberations to the kinglet, and the careful discussion this was, and they kept their decision before the Prince of Monaco. Again they took that to the kinglet, and he agreed with them. And whatever the committee members decided, what was their decision? The decision was that they wanted to dismiss the guard permanently, who was fetching the food of criminal and was looking after the criminal in prison, and they wanted to dismiss that guard permanently. And he agreed with them. Kinglet, the Prince of Monaco, agreed whatever these committee members decided. The guard was dismissed and they waited to see what would happen. All had curiosity to know that what happens next. When they dismissed the guard from that prison, and they were looking forward what happens next, and they were having curiosity to know that what was going to happen next. Then again, what would happen next? The guard was dismissed and they waited to see what would happen. All that happened was that at the dinner time the criminal came out, and not finding his guard, he went to the prince's kitchen to fetch his own dinner. So all other committee members expected that if the criminal may not find guard outside, and what happens, he may run away. That's what they expected, and what they expected, that did not happen. And the criminal, when he came out of the prison, finding no guard, was bringing his food and was watching over him, and when he came to know that there was no guard to look after him, then what he did, and he himself went to the kitchen, and he brought his own dinner. He brought his own food, and again he stayed in. All that happened was that the dinner time the criminal came out, and not finding his guard, he went to the prince's kitchen to fetch his own dinner. He took what was given him and returned to the prison, shut the door on himself and stayed inside. And this they did not expect. including king, they expected that the criminal may run away when he won't find guard was watching over him. And when criminal went out of the prison, finding no guard, and he himself went to the kitchen and brought his food and had it, and he shut the door himself and stayed inside. And this is not, they did not expect this, this from this criminal. And next day the same thing occurred. He went for his food at the proper time, but as for running away, he did not show the least sign of it. What was to be done? They considered the matter again. Now what happened? They expected that the criminal may run away. And when few days have gone, the same thing occurred. So as if at the time of food, at the food time he was coming out of the prison and finding no guard, he himself going to the kitchen and bringing his food and having it and shut the door himself and stayed in. And all the committee members including king surprised to know that the criminal was not showing interest of running away. He was not showing at all. He was not even showing an iota of interest to run away from that prison. That made all the committee members surprised. Again what happened? They again considered the matter. Again they started worrying that what they expected that did not happen. Again they considered and reconsidered the matter. They considered the matter again. We shall have to tell him straight out. Now directly, indirectly they mean to say that the criminal may run away. But when that did not happen, all the committee members decided themselves, and one of the committee members suggested that we shall have to tell him straight out. Directly we should tell him that they said that we do not want to keep him. So all the one of the members of committee, and he suggested that we should directly tell him that they do not want to keep him there. So keep him. So the minister of justice had him brought before him, and minister of justice summoned the criminal before him, and they said him directly. What they said is, why do you not run away? Said the ministers, there is no God to keep you. You can go wherever you like, and the prince will not mind. That's what the minister of justice said to the criminal. The criminal was summoned before the minister of justice, and minister of justice told him that why do not you run away from the prison? There is no God to watch you. There is no God to keep his eye on you, and even if you run away, king won't bother. King won't mind even if you go out. There is no God to keep you. You can go wherever you like, and the prince will not mind. So that's what they directly told that criminal. What criminal replied? What criminal said, you see? I dare say the prince would not mind. I know it. I know that prince won't mind. I dare say the prince would not mind, replied the man. But I have nowhere to go. He said clearly. He said clearly that I have nowhere to go. He was not ready to go anywhere. But I have nowhere to go. What can I do? What can I do? You have ruined my character by your sentence, and people will turn their backs on me. This is what he was saying, that when you are asking me to go out of the prison, where I should go now? In first way, you have ruined my character, my personality by your sentence. You have ruined my character by your sentence, and people will turn their backs on me. Turn their backs means that people may not talk to him. People may not show interest to talk to this criminal, because all the ministers and king, they have given him punishment. That they have given punishment to this criminal, that he was a murderer, and they have ruined his character. They have ruined his personality, so that people considered him as a murderer, a criminal, so that people may not talk to me, so that I am not ready to go out of the prison. What can I do? You have ruined my character by your sentence, and people will turn their backs on me. Besides, I have got out of the way of working. So that he said, even I don't have any works to do outside. I have been given a name as criminal and a murderer. In the society, people will not have proper respect towards me. people may not talk to me. I will be not given any jobs to work. So that I know I am not ready to go out of the out of this prison. Besides, I have got out of the way of working. You have treated me badly. So that he is telling that you have treated me. Does he mean that they should treat him good then? No, he said that they have treated him. You have treated me badly. You have considered me as a criminal, murderer. You have ruined my character. How can I go out and work with people? People may not talk to me, and I don't have any works to do. And you have treated me badly. It is not fair. In the first place, when you have sentenced me to death, you ought to have executed me. And he's reminding them. Is reminding them that this is not the fair what you are doing with me. This is not the justice what you are doing with me. And he is telling them that first of all, in the first way what happened, you gave me death sentence and you ought to execute me. That you did not do. First of all, in the first place, when once you sentenced me to death, you ought to have executed me. But you did not do it. First of all, you decided to give me death sentence, but that you did not do. You ought to do it, but you did not do. That is one thing I did not complain about that. See, look at here, and he is there to say that he did not complain on the ministers and the committee members, because first decision was that they gave the death sentence to the criminal. That they did not do. And I did not complain about that, and I have, in fact, he has excused them. He says that that is one thing I did not complain about that. Then you sentenced me to imprisonment for life and put a guard to bring me my food. And second time what happened? You kept me in a prison, and you placed a guard to watch me, and his duty was to bring my food from the kitchen, and his duty was to look after me. And then what happened? You dismissed that guard too. Then you sentenced me to imprisonment for life and put a guard to bring me my food. But after a time, you took him away again. I have to fetch my own food, and I had to go my own to the kitchen and fetch my food. And at that time also I did not complain. See, look at here, and he's saying that he has given some excuses to them. And he is telling that after I did not complain, but now you actually want me to go away. I can't agree to that. You may do as you like, but I won't go away. That's what clearly he said, that first of all, when you gave me death sentence, that you did not do. At that time I did not complain. So second time, when you placed a guard to watch me over, and we had to bring my food from the kitchen, and at that time also, later after some time what happened? You dismissed that guard, and again I had to go myself to the kitchen and bring my food, and at that time also I did not complain. I excused you, but now again what are you saying? And you say that now you actually want me to go away? No, he is surprised to know this. I can't agree to that. You may do as you like, but I won't go away. See, this is what. See, look at this is irony. We say that whereas the justice himself is telling the criminal to go away, run away from that prison, but he was not ready to do that, because he was pretty much sure that people may not talk to him. He may not get works to do, so that he was he worried about his future. And he will not have proper respect in the society, so that he is asking them to give his name and fame back, or they should support him financially. That's what he was expecting. I can't agree to do that. You may do as you like, but I won't go away. He said that. He was very clear, and he said that I won't go away from this prison. I will be here. I remain here. Then all the committee members again they started considering this matter, what was to be done. So this is what committee after committee held, and not there was not a successful decision. And when the decisions were taken by the ministers, and all the committee members there, and that was not successful. And when it had successful, but now king worried about the expenditure of the guard as well as the criminal. Again they started worrying. Again they started considering this matter. What was to be done? Once more the council was summoned. Again all the committee members were summoned before the king. What course could they adopt now? Next what they were going to do? The man would not go. They reflected and considered the only way to get rid of him was to offer him a pension. See, this is what I think. This is first time where criminal was offering pension. He was offering pension, and all the committee members considered and reconsidered, and they came to know that the criminal was not ready to go out, and what they wanted to offer him a pension. So that's what I think. This is first time that the only way to get rid of him was to offer him a pension, or finance. They want to give him some money for every month. And so they reported to the prince. There is nothing else for it, said they. We must get rid of him somehow. The sum fixed was 600 francs, and this was announced to the prisoner. And what was the decision? All the committee members decided to offer him a pension. So that was 600 francs per year, per annum, 600 francs, and that's what they announced to the criminal, and they kept before the king, and king also agreed to them. King agreed. There is nothing else for it, said. There is nothing else for it, said they. We must get rid of him somehow. And all the committee members felt that they wanted to get rid of, get rid of this fellow, this criminal. He has become headache to them, and they wanted to somehow get rid of him. So that they decided the sum fixed was 600 francs, and this was announced to the prisoner. And later all the committee members, so including king, in front of all the committee members, they declared before the criminal that you are going to offer, or we are offering you pension, that is 600 francs per year. On that condition, what happened? Now criminal agree with them. Well, said he. Well, the criminal said that. Well, said he, I don't mind so long as you undertake to pay it regularly. So that today you are going to announce, but next day if you are not going to stand on your words, and I am not going to run away, on the condition of paying regularly. If you take it seriously, and as long as you undertake to pay it regularly, so you should pay me every month regularly. On this condition, I am willing to go out of the prison. Well, said he, I don't mind so long as you undertake to pay it regularly. On that condition, I am willing to go. He is keeping a condition before them that every month they should offer him regularly pension. Today they say yes, tomorrow if they say no, on that condition, so they should pay him regularly. On that condition, the criminal was ready to go out of the prison. So the matter was settled. He received 1/3 of annuity in advance and left the king's dominions. So what happened? He took 1/3 of his pension in advance, and then he left that prince dominions. So then he left that place, king's dominions, and it was only a quarter of an hour by rail. So what happened? From the king, from that Monaco, he had 45 minutes journey from there, and he settled down. It was only a quarter of an hour by rail, and he emigrated and settled just across the frontier, where he bought a bit of land and started market gardening. So this is what, maybe we are all coming across this kind of case first time, that where the criminal was offering pension, and he bought a bit of land in that money, and which he took 1/3 in advance. In that in that 600 francs, he took 1/3 in advance, and again he did 45 minutes away 45 minutes duration away from that king's domain, and there he bought a bit of land. There he purchased a bit of land, and there he started market gardening, and now lives comfortably. Then this criminal started living his life so comfortably, so peaceably, and so luxuriously than any man of the Monaco. This is the what we said, that irony, that where criminal has to be punished, where his head has to be cut off, and or he has to be kept permanently in prison, but that did not happen with this criminal. Whereas the king of Monaco was feeling expenditure of giving punishment to the criminal is too dear, that is too expensive, so that this is what happened. He always goes at the proper time to draw his pension, having received it. He goes to the gaming tables, stakes 2 or 3 francs, and sometimes wins and sometimes loses, and then returns home. He lives peaceably and well. This is what happened. This surprise, and that the criminal regularly was going to the king, and he was drawing his pension. And after drawing his pension, and again he is going to gaming house tables, and where he was playing roulette, and sometimes he was winning and sometimes he was losing, but he was regularly getting his pension. Having received it, he goes to the gaming tables, stakes 2 or 3 francs, sometimes wins and sometimes loses, and then returns home. He lives peaceably and well. So he well settled in his life, and he was living a peaceable life, a happy life than any man of Monaco. And then at the end of the story, this is the story which mocks, ridiculous the way of punishing a criminal. At the end of the story, Leo Tolstoy says that, thank God, or fortunately what happened, it is a good thing that he did not commit his crime in a country where they do not grudge, where they do not grudge expense to cut a man's head off or to keep him in a prison for life. And thank God, or it is good thing happened that this criminal did not commit his crime in the country where the country won't bother about the expenditure of cutting off his head, or keeping that criminal lifelong in the prison. If that country won't mind, he did not born in that country. So unfortunately or fortunately, he has born in that country where the prince of that country bothers or feels that giving punishment to a criminal is expensive, or it's a high cost, or it is too dear. So that's what the story. This story mocks, ridiculous, it depicts that the way of punishing a criminal is really it's an irony also, where that criminal head has to be cut off immediately, or he has to be kept in the prison permanently, but that did not happen. Rather, the criminal started living his life so happily, luxuriously, peaceably than any man of Monaco. This is a humorous play by Leo Tolstoy is over. So in this story or in this chapter, 5 marks will be asked. 5 marks. 1 marks question will be 1. 1 marks question will be 1, and 4 marks question will be 1. Total 5 marks question. 5 marks questions will be asked on this chapter, so that we should prepare. In last annual exam, they asked a question on this chapter, that how much did the French government expect in 2 years? How much it was? 16,000 francs. So how much did the Italy government expect? 12,000 francs. So 1 marks question. Why Monaco was called a toy kingdom? Because its population is only 7,000. Or what were the taxes collected from the Prince of Monaco, or what were the taxes collected in Monaco? That they were tobacco, wine, spirit, and a poll tax, and extra tax that comes from gaming house or gambling game. So this is the story. I hope you have understood 2 dear. So 5 marks will be asked on this, and 1 marks question will be 1, and 4 marks question will be 1. This is the story. So dear, in next class we discuss on children, that is by Khalil Gibran. Thank you.